And right from the start, well, you'll hear it. It's our grisly tale.
Hallelujah.
Alan Robson is the essential connection.
You're not afraid of the dark, are you?
Now tonight, I'm going to be talking about demonic possession. Because it can happen to anyone, anytime. First of all, I intend to play you a clip of an exorcist who invented a chair that could be shackled to a table to keep someone who is possessed in there. It sounds like this. He's attaching the buckle to the chair now. It's just there. This has a hook here. The other one unhooks on the opposite side. I tie their hands here and here. I tie their feet down. Shackles at the bottom. He's going across to where the shackles are, and this man is a bishop. These are for strapping the arms. And these are to strap the feet. And then I put this strap around their waists. It stops them from moving. It's very strong, thick leather straps. You can hear how solid it is. Look at this. This is what they can do. Do you see this? A girl broke this. It's steel. This fits this one. No, it fits. Let's see here. And these are the same thing they use for climbing mountains. Snapped it in half. This is the one. Look how bent it is. It is impossible to bend this by hand. See? The devil fears the exorcist. It is he who is afraid, not us when we beat him. When we say, "Who are you?" This is the Christian version, of course. And he says, "Satan," we say, "Right, I am going to trash you." So he is the one shouting. Because when the person shouts, these are the cries you hear outside in the street or in the garden. It is not the person but the devil who feels the blow. Now, they're starting to put a girl into the chair. The young girl, approximately 17 or 18, is possessed with a demon. And they're putting her feet into the shackles at the bottom. Let me go to hell. The priest being knocked over, he's on his backside now. Get the holy water, Father. Let me go. Get the water, be good. She's trying to bite her own parents. She's shaking and shivering, and her father's got a hold of her around the neck, trying to stop her. Imagine if this was your child. She's now shackled, she's now in place, she can't go anywhere. Her feet are in place, her arms, that thing around her chest. The priest is saying, "She's mine, Antichrist, Antichrist." Here is the holy water, splashing her with holy water that seems to burn her. He says, "You need a special kind of strength. I have noticed this. Exorcism is like beating with a stick. You're striking evil with holy water or your hands. Don't burn me," he says, "but I'm not fooled. The evil ones are cunning. He tries to talk so he can rest." Have you ever seen boxers when they're punching and suddenly they hug each other? To get their breath back. The demon does the same. He speaks, but I don't take any notice. I just carry on, no mercy. I keep raining blows. Hail Mary, full of grace. She's hammering. I won't, she says. He splashes more holy water onto her face. She's still not calming. She's not calming. Beautiful young girl, 17 or 18, shaking her black hair around. The father. Tell the truth, tell the truth. Does the devil exist?
Di la verità a questa signora. Esiste o non esisti tu? Il demonio esiste o non esiste?
He exists. The devil exists. How can you prove it, says the priest. Evil, war, everything. I exist. I am everywhere. So evil exists. It is everywhere. Now, a lot of you may have seen the film The Exorcism of Emily Rose. But do you know that the real exorcism of Emily Rose was captured on film and is 20 times scarier than the actual movie?
Das ganze Deutschland verführt, oder? Ja, der ist noch drin. Im Namen des dreifaltigen Gottes und aller Jungfrau Maria, sagt die Wahrheit.
Now, she was a beautiful, beautiful young lady, absolutely gorgeous. Have a look at some of the real pictures of Emily Rose. She was gorgeous, and when you see her towards the end, that wasn't a funny thing. But for those of you that think that exorcisms, or should I say more, demonic possession, for those of you who think it doesn't happen here, I have a story to tell. For centuries, many in the medical world have misdiagnosed madness on people who can see ghosts, or in the worst cases are possessed. My first ever experience of this was in February 2002. I was taken to see a 17-year-old girl in Seaburn. She'd been talking in a man's voice for almost a month, and a GP was totally at a loss, actually writing on her medical records, "This could be the worst case of manic bipolar schizophrenia that I've ever seen, or it is a genuine possession by person or persons unknown. This is only one of a handful of cases where the medical world has accepted the possibility of demonic possession." This pretty young girl had the deep voice of an old man and spoke using words from almost a century before. She had also been eating her own feces and throwing it around the room. Her parents had her locked into a room with a padlock on it, the windows nailed shut. And for my visit, had even belted her arms to scaffold poles placed around the bed to control her. 3 months earlier, she'd been at college and doing well. And then one morning, she refused to get up and began talking in that voice. I was accompanied by Andrew, one of only 4 non-religious exorcists like myself in Britain. He was in his 70s, and he was one of the most calm and dedicated people I've ever met. I asked if I could talk to the man in possession of the girl before we got him out of there. I asked his name, and to my surprise, I heard the little girl, and she said, "I'm Karen. Please stop him, he's hurting me." I want my life back. And just then, a deep voice. Who be you then? I told him that I would only tell him my name if he were to tell me his. Oh, you be a wily one. What business is it of yours who I be? For almost 10 minutes we batted phrases back and forth until finally he said, William Forster, I'm here because I can't escape. I need to find my beloved Catherine. With this young girl I can search for her. She was taken by a bestial man. A man from Seaburn, Edward Murray. I spend the rest of my life trying to find her. I told him my name. I explained that we were about to free Karen from him, and that he could do nothing to stop us. But if he helped us, we would try and help him. At that moment, the little girl began lashing out and the leather straps made the metal poles rattle and crash. Don't you be tricking me. I can stop her breathing. Andrew darted in and said, if you do that, you perish too, and then you'll never find your wife. I tried to get my head around what was happening. At the back of the room, two white, petrified parents just wanting their daughter back. I asked them if they could bear having Karen to stay like this one more day. And they said firmly, no. That would have given us a chance to troll records looking for this Catherine Foster. And then the deep voice said, Murray killed me and buried me in the swamp below Hilton Castle. And they never found me. In the year of our Lord's 1865. Catherine couldn't find me, so now I must find her. She will not have left this world without me. Andrew said, you only need this woman so you can talk. Enter my body and you can do that. And then I can control you safely. Set this young lass free. Her parents are hurting and she's terrified. Now there was the most amazingly loud gasp from the bed. And suddenly all of the blood rushed back into the teenager's face, and she was looking up at us, saying in her own voice, what's happening? The straps were unfastened, and within seconds, her parents were hugging her and desperately trying to get us out of their house. I'll never forget the father, Richard, saying, thank you both so much. I don't know what on earth is happening. Just get that out of here and don't let it come back. Within 10 minutes, we were in a library chasing records of Seaburn to find anybody called Catherine Forster. From around 1865 onwards, there were many, but none fitting the story. We did find an Edward Murray who was murdered on Dean Lane in 1866. He was found bundled in a shop doorway with brain matter dribbling from his ear. He'd been hit with something very heavy. The coroner's report said it had been a frenzied attack by someone crazed. He had scratch marks on his face so deep, one entire fingernail was found in a wound next to his eye socket. There were wounds on his lower stomach and groin as if he'd been stamped on by high heels, making 3 puncture marks, 2 on his groin, 1 on his right thigh. Andrew kept having to excuse himself. He couldn't stop himself from vomiting. Yet there'd not been a sound from the person he claimed to be carrying. I'd learned everything about exorcism, but this was far beyond what I'd ever encountered. Andrew returned pale and bent double with pain, but we worked side by side on the computers until we located a Catherine Forster. But she hadn't died in the 1860s. She died in the 1930s. So this would have made her around 80 when she passed. So I contacted a friend who does family trees. He's a bit of a genius. Within 30 minutes, I had details of William's marriage to Catherine Foster, a copy of the birth certificate, and what's more, her death certificate, and a copy of her will. She died of pneumonia, and in her death certificate, she left all of her earthly goods to her sister, Matilda. The very last line was incredible. It simply read, "Tell William that I shall wait forever for him at Mia Knoll." This meant nothing to me. I went through 1,000 websites without success. Good thing is, I was on Night Owls that night. I dropped Andrew off at a hotel in Durham. Tomorrow we would continue our search. I was genuinely scared for him. For what he'd done was risky on the edge of blind stupidity. On Night Owls that night, I happened to ask if anybody had ever heard of a place called Mia Knoll. Within seconds, we had 40-odd calls all saying it was a cemetery in Seaburn. But Knoll was spelled with a K, and that is how we both missed it. So the following day, a Friday, I drove down, picked up Andrew, who had suffered a rough night. No sleep, just plenty vomiting. I parked on Tova Crescent, not far from Monk Weymouth School, and I entered Mia Knoll Cemetery. With help from a church representative, we were directed to a grave. And there ahead of us lay the grave of Catherine Foster. Andrew placed a tribute of fuchsias that he brought with him. At that, he contorted and fell onto his knees, sinking into the wet grass next to the headstone. There was an ungodly shriek from him. I truly thought he was having a heart attack. He contorted, twisting this way and that, and then stopped dead. That's what I was worried about. In his 70s, his little body wasn't strong enough to cope, not with this sort of hammer. At that second, I caught a glimpse of something black darting away. It may have been my imagination, but it moved so quickly towards a far wall. Just then, Andrew groaned and said, "F me, Alan. Don't ever try that. I feel like shit." I got him into the car and he was looking a lot better. "I want to go home." I asked if it was done. He said, "I didn't let him leave. He raced out of me. That's all I really care about." If this woman was true about what she said, they're together again. I asked, "If not?" Andrew grinned and said, "Put your foot down, Alan. If he doesn't find her, I think we'll both hear from him." 3 months later, Andrew died, and I truly believe it was this that speeded him towards his death. Coincidentally, the people of Seaburn were well aware that Mia Knoll Cemetery was haunted, many having seen a woman in a long dark frock. Wearing a black bonnet on her head. For over 50 years there'd been sightings. Yet there was not one single report after 2002. The question is, how many people that have been diagnosed with mental illness of one form or another are really suffering from a form of possession? For centuries, those who saw ghosts were placed into institutions and never allowed their freedom. Yet this is not quite the end of the story. In 2008, someone else inquired about the family from my colleague, the genealogist. His name was Edward Murray. It seems his great-grandfather was the illegitimate child created when Edward Murray raped Catherine Foster. Now, that child died early, and according to the coroner, could have been smothered. Nowadays, it would almost certainly be put down to cut down. It seems that young Edward Murray, who lived in Roker, had endured years of poltergeist activity from his long-dead relative. He was advised to seek out an exorcist. I was approached and sidestepped it, having an overseas show to going down. I was glad not to get involved. The church exorcist did it, saying that the entity was very strong, and although he had certainly calmed things down, it wouldn't surprise him if it returned. Murray moved out, and ever since, that house in Sunderland became a most oppressing place. This house is still haunted and stands there in Bede Street after a succession of owners. Some tenants have been scratched, bruised, punched, tripped, and some have been confronted by a screaming man who suddenly disappears. The current tenant used to be such a softly spoken man, yet now he has a loud, foul mouth. Could he be the next victim of demonic possession? When someone you know suddenly changes into someone that you don't know. How common could it be that they're really someone else? And let's just hope that no demon decides to choose you or your daughter, like this girl from Sunderland.
How would you like me to make your life a living hell?
Alan Robson, champion of the North.
Don't torture yourself. That's my job.
And now, on today's program.
A man of science.
He's unique, wouldn't you say?
He's healthy and normal and full of fun.
You're the man.
All of your tests indicate that you have the most advanced intellect in the history of humankind.
Cody's Saturday Surgery.
Medic!
This doc rocks.
And here he is. Hiya, buddy.
Hey, Alan, how's it going, my friend?
It's good. And the busiest surgery you've ever had in your life
Well, I am geared up and ready.
Now, how is it this Wednesday? You've still got to wait until you can get that pump pumping.
Yes, indeedy, but it's coming closer. It's only a few days away. I'm a happy camper.
That's all right. Well, I do know that Emma's got some questions for you. I'm going to cut across to Emma right now, and we'll see what she's got. I'll start you off with a quickie, because this arrived quite late today. It's from David in Northumberland. He says, I'm having a little trouble